I changed Dark Souls 3 so that for each level I get, the game runs 2% faster. And it may not sound like much, but trust me, it gets really crazy really quickly. Pun intended. And obviously it's going to be an all bosses run with the DLCs, but the beginning of the game is done at almost base game speed, so allow me to fast forward to get to the good bits. After fighting Gundin and Vort, no issues there, I want to take out the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. It's a mandatory boss later on that you can trigger early, and by doing that, not only I would be able to fight her at a much lower game speed, since I'm still at a low level, but behind her there are a lot of late game upgrade materials, making the whole early and mid game easier. But I felt like it was better to first progress a bit in the game and then go for the Dancer. Absolutely not because I'm washed, not at all. So I first fight the Crystal Sage and right after that the Deacons of the Deep. These boss fights are very non-traditional and kind of easy if you are decently equipped, so the fact that the game is faster doesn't really affect them. But here I got extremely lucky because I took out a single Warden and it dropped me its swords. If you ever tried to farm them, you know how unbelievably rare this is. So I saw it as a sign from Lord Gwyn and decided to use them in the run. And finally we have the first interesting boss fight. I'm at level 19, this is kind of low for this area, but intentionally so, since I can already feel the 138% game speed. It's not insanely high yet, so I can reasonably react to most attacks, but the problem is that it messes with my muscle memory. Over the years I spent so much time fighting these guys that when I see a specific part of a move, I automatically dodge with a set timing and direction that puts me at a distance where I can hit them back. And that obviously does not work when the game speed is all messed up, so I keep on getting hit by every attack if I don't devote all my brain power to stop myself from automatically dodging. And sometimes, since I'm thinking too much and the attacks are fast, I don't dodge and I get it anyway. Then phase 2 is really sloppy, in that I get hit by half the attacks, but I brought enough fears to just tank through the fight, since that does not require leveling up. And with a little clutch at the end, I bring it home. Now, there are some upgrade materials, but I think I got distracted through the whole process, because my whole idea was to get to the Dancer early, but I also fought Wolnir for some reason and leveled up a bunch, so now the speed is 162%. I mean, not insanely high, but it definitely feels fast, the muscle memory is still there, and it wasn't necessary at all. Still, this boss doesn't really have super quick attacks, and my weapons have bleed on them, so all in all it was pretty easy. And if I don't show all the other tries I did at various points in this run, I look like a way better gamer, but I did stream it all on this very channel, so I can't lie too much about that. Now we have a bunch of late game upgrade materials, so my damage output is through the roof, and at this point 178% speed makes exploring areas kind of fun and kind of insane. I think this should be the base speed for walking around, like normally. I mean, I guess that's just Sekiro though. Next in line is Pontiff Sullivan, and yeah, I could wait, go around and get stronger before the fight, but at this point the only part that I can improve is my level. And I mean my skill, but that's beside the point. Leveling up is just going to make this harder since it makes it faster, so I think it's correct to do the hardest fights early. And regarding the Pontiff, it's hard. He is already one of the fastest enemies in the game, and the speed is high enough that I believe some of his attacks are unreactable at this point. Or at the very least, I have to guess if I need to roll forwards or backwards. I cannot recognize the move first and then roll accordingly. That said, I can still use spacing to my advantage, and even if there are less openings now, it's not like there are no openings. Some of his moves are still slow enough that I can react to them and punish. Obviously, when the clone is out, it's a straight up nightmare, but I am able to take out the clone in a single sequence, given enough stamina and being ready, if I attack from the front, whereas if I attack from the back, I deal more damage to the real Pontiff, so there's a trade-off there. At the end of the day, it wasn't as bad as I expected it to be, but mostly because I think I chose the right build. There are 3 options in a challenge like this. I can go with a build that uses spells and long range attacks, since usually enemy long range attacks are going to be slower, or at least they have to cover more distance before they get to me, so they are always kind of reactable. I can go for a build with quickstep, a weapon skill that has more invincibility frames than a roll, so something that is more focused on dodging and getting a huge punish when I can. But remember that this is not Elden Ring, so weapon skills are not swappable, and thus it would require having probably a dagger in the left hand just for quickstep. Or I can go for a dumb idiot build, that I obviously chose, where I just bring weapons that deal an impossible amount of damage while also consuming a lot of stamina, and I just plan on not being able to dodge and getting hit, but with the idea of dealing more damage than I take. Paired swords, rings to heal more efficiently, and an almost tanky build. It's good because it's idiot proof, and I think it shows pretty well why it's effective in this first try against Aldrich, where I got hit by every attack known to man, but I still took them out easily. Now the speed is almost 200%, and I have 2 potentially run-ending boss fights in front of me, Oseiros and Gundyr. The former is, like, just weird? I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea what's happening in this fight. He's way too quick for me to react, but also misses me most of the time. So I just started randomly swinging my weapons around and it worked incredibly well. Don't ask me why, I don't really know. But now there's Gundyr at 2x game speed, and if normally he's a menace, here it's going to be a real problem. If you're wondering why this video is basically all me narrating the thing and almost no live me talking, it's only that, as you can imagine, fighting at this speed requires my full brain power, so I didn't talk a lot. I'm showing you the whole fight because it's really cool, and also because it lasted less than 30 seconds. Yes, this was a first try too, not bragging, just confused. And that was Gundyr? We're at level 50. Big man got deleted. Like, didn't even show up to play. Also, the faster the game goes, the funnier it is to run around. Now there's Yorm. Turns out that a gimmick twice as fast is still a gimmick, and here I might have had a little too much hubris. See, the challenge was going really well, and it wasn't very hard up to this point, even though the worst boss fights have yet to come. So I might have leveled a little too aggressively, and thus made the game a little too fast. Like, definitely too fast. Also, apparently my technique of tanking hits and dealing a lot of damage doesn't really work if I get one-shot killed, a thing the Dragon Slayer armor kindly reminded me of. So, the game now is probably too fast and I'm stuck with it. But like, I'm only a little above level 60. I specifically chose Dark Souls 3 for this challenge, since you level up more than Dark Souls 1, but less than Elden Ring. And unfortunately, there are no other main Souls game existing. And the fight that I have to do now is definitely the hardest and most unnerving one yet. Up to this point, yeah, the game was fast, but I could just react to attacks kind of reliably. Sure, I got hit sometimes, but if when you see movement you roll, it kind of works well. Here I cannot do that anymore. This boss loves to teleport behind me and then swing, but you can't just react to the teleport. His moveset requires you to first see what attack he's doing after the teleport, and then dodge with the right timing. Because if you just dodge when you see the teleport, he has an attack that catches you mid-roll. Too bad that it's basically impossible to actually wait and see what's happening, so I have to blindly roll out and hope for the best. And I'm not saying it isn't my fault for bringing the game to this speed. It definitely is, but hey, it's for content. I also could have technically beat this challenge at base speed and so level 1. The other problem is that my strategy of just tank hits and don't care about it doesn't really work anymore. They deal way too much damage and they also have a lot of HP, so I need to dodge at least some attacks or I will simply run out of heals. The game is still working almost fine at this speed, props to the developers, but I also realized that for some reason the mod I'm using does not speed up projectiles, and that is kind of good and kind of bad. It makes dodging the Faith Spears in phase 2 easier, since they are that much slower, but it also makes the light particles that turn into lasers a lot more annoying, since they will linger in place for so long after they get cast. But I started encountering some bugs here, or at least some weird interactions the game was having, and they obviously all happened just before I would have been able to get a kill. I mean, not that I didn't choke my fair share of attempts, but that's life. And after a grueling 2 hours of tries, that at 2x speed would be 4 hours, I took them out. What did I change to get this attempt? Did I finally get good? Nah, I just got a little more lucky than usual with the attacks and with when I bled them. Because not every attack is a nightmare, instant swipe, guess right or get hit, some of them are still slow and punishable. So I just started swinging, minding my own business, and it just so happened to line up properly. But I still want to show it to you, because talking about it doesn't give justice to how crazy this speed is. Oh, dear brother! Oh, Also, I think that jump scare traumatized me, because for some reason I leveled up twice after the fight. Now it's time for the DLCs and all the hard optional bosses. The Gravetender wouldn't usually make the cut for hard, or smart, or fun in any way, but this time the wolf is impossibly fast and I can't keep track of it while it yanks my camera left and right. But it also misses me half the times, so as always this fight is just disappointing. Bad dog. And then there's Fide, and I'm not sure what I should be doing here. Sure, phase 1 and 2 are a little tricky, with fast attacks and whatnot, but phase 3 is just a nightmare. I have no idea where I'm supposed to be attacking here. I'm just in a vortex of swings, and she kept on hitting me with the grab attack. An attack that is usually easy to dodge and punish, that here becomes a full screen hit, hard to react, for a reasonable 70% damage. Plus, with the projectiles being normal speed, Erase explosions are also normal speed, so they linger in place for much longer, and often I'm not able to see what she's doing behind the ice. I was so normal and collected about the grab. So, since this is not a mental hospital speedrun, I decided to leave her for later and instead went to beat up the other optional bosses, what I'm sure is a very healthy coping strategy for real life too. I thought the demons would be pretty hard, with them having big attacks and all, but turns out that my weapon deals bleed and they are really weak to bleed. Most attacks miss me if I just stand under them, and again they are really weak to bleed. The prince is also easy, because his light attacks just miss me 9 times out of 10. I can just mindlessly swing, and if I get clipped, who cares? There aren't really any one-shot kills. Plus, the big attacks are slow enough for me to react. Granted, they will still hit me half the times, but my damage output is insane too, because he is also really weak to bleed. I am aware it's impossible to understand what's going on screen, but if you played the game, you are probably already wondering about the next area, so let's just go there. Apparently, the archers themselves are considered projectiles by the game, so they are normal speed, but summoning them is an attack, so that's sped up, and I can just run through. Then it's Half-Light, and the speech at the beginning is not sped up, so to save time I had to kill Judicator Argo every attempt, just to have the privilege to do one of the worst fights in the game. Okay, maybe that's too harsh, but if he's annoying usually, he's twice as annoying now, since he can one-shot kill me if he wants to. Technically, it's not a true one-shot kill, since I could roll out of his wings after a couple of them, but he is built like a normal enemy and not a boss, meaning that I have to manually input a roll to get out of his combos. He won't stop or push me away, and if I don't press anything in time, I just die. And at this speed, I often can't properly early buffer roll, so if the first attack connects and he decides to do 2 follow-ups, by the time I realize what's happening, I'm dead. But he can also decide to do nothing in standard Half-Life fashion, and I can cut him up. Then there's the Wyvern, and the mod actually makes this one better since it only lasts half the time, but now I took out all the jobbers and I have to focus on the 5 strongest enemies in the game. Friede, Gael, Midir, the Nameless King, and the Soul of Cinder. All of them normally hard, all of them way harder at 222% speed. I began with Friede because I hold a grudge and because there aren't really too many smart strats here, so it's just brute force and getting good. I also did a thing I never do on stream usually, but I had to go even further beyond. I tied my hair, and chat immediately started calling me Zlatan. Honestly, maybe I kinda see it, you can discuss it in the comment section if you want to. I somewhat talked about this fight previously, so we are not going to spend too much time here. In the narration I mean, while playing I definitely spent too much time here. But first of all, I switched to the Sellsword Twin Blades, since without the bleed they simply deal more flat damage. And all in all, phases 1 and 2 are not a problem. In the former, challenging her makes things faster, but I can also just wait her out, since the moment she goes invisible and jumps, it's an almost reliable punish. And in phase 2, Ariandel takes way too much damage, so if I just wait for them to be far apart, I can engage and they die in 2 attack sequences. The game is still too fast to be reliable, so I often die even in these phases, but I can say that the only problem is Black Flame Friede. Fighting her head-on is impossible, and I figured that one out after only a couple of hours of pain. So I have to simply stand back and hope that my reflexes are up to the task. Not all of her attacks are punishable at this speed, and I even take damage if I try and punish them sometimes, so I usually just roll in and either go for a backstab or a single two-handed strike. A cool thing that usually isn't doable is hitting after the jumping attack that ends with a nice explosion, because the ice is considered a projectile here, so it blows up at normal speed, and this gives just enough time to roll behind her and get a backstab. It's a minimal thing, I know, but in this fight, trust me, you need all the help you can get, including medical and mental. After that, it's just getting lucky. If she turns invisible a bunch of times, doesn't do too many hard to dodge attacks, and you can keep your cool long enough to have good reflexes all the way through, you may experience a fraction of what I did after choking for hours. Easy. First try. Would not suggest doing it. I'm not fighting this way for the 4 remaining bosses, so let's come up with some smart strategies for them, please. First, I went to farm an enemy that drops the Storyteller stuff. Pretty quick to do, and I want this one not to cast spells, but because its weapon art is the most damaging poison effect in the game, both in terms of build up and damage dealt. And wouldn't you know it, Gael is weak to poison. It does require 12 intelligence though, so very reluctantly I had to level up twice. I still need the blades in phase 1, since he moves around way too much for me to poison him, plus he's not that hard to deal with. He has too many HP to do a fully honest fight, since I get hit here and there all the time, but if it's just one phase, it's not a problem. He doesn't even have enough burst damage to kill me instantly if I get distracted. Phase 2 is the easiest one, so I poison him while he's walking around, and then I start attacking him with the sword. That's because a single poison won't be enough to take him out, and I want to avoid fighting melee in phase 3 as much as possible, since that one is just a nightmare. So the idea is to damage him enough with blades and poison up to the phase transition, and hopefully just dodge later. Not that it's easy to do by any means. He's fast, has a lot of range and deals plenty of damage, but it's also a lot better than actually fighting him. He almost scammed me at the end, but let's take him off the list and get ready for Midir. I have to to respec here, specifically to 30 intelligence, some attunement for focus points, and all the rest is just HP. This is because I intend on using Pestilent Mist, a spell that deals damage based on the opponent's max HP. Doesn't scale with my stats or anything, it's just a fixed amount depending on the enemy, and since Midir has a lot of HP, it's pretty good. Also, if you want to see more Pestilent Mist nonsense, there is a version of it in Elden Ring that does fixed damage, not based on the opponent's HP, and does not scale. So it's a nightmare unusable spell, and I of course made a video using only it. As you can guess, Pestilent Mist is a mist, so it's all about dodging attacks and keeping the big bad dragon inside it. It may sound counterintuitive, but the best way to do it is to stay at the same distance you need if you were using melee attacks, because when he sees you there, he usually also does melee attacks that don't move him around too much, so he stays in the mist, and are also pretty easy to dodge. There isn't much more to this. He can be very annoying as usual, but at least there's less dead air now that the game is faster. He sometimes one-shot kills you with the big laser and some other attacks, but all in all, it took me like 3 tries to do it with this strategy, so I would call this almost easy. And then there's the Nameless King, that I should add I still have to fight melee, since I couldn't get past the chicken before him. I respec again to a faith build, only that now spells do scale, so 35 faith that becomes 40 with the ring, some HP to survive and optimal attunement. This one can be done easily with Sunlight Spear. But as we established, I am kind of dumb, so I forgot to give the thing that converts boss souls into items to the Lord before burning him alive, so Lightning Arrow will have to do the trick. It's a decent miracle and the enemy is weak to lightning, but this was still the most frustrating fight yet, because the bird kept dodging attacks and flying around. I am more ready for phase 2, and I brought Doris Knowing, a miracle that deals dark damage and a lot of bleed, against the king that is weak to dark and really weak to bleed, so it's just 2 casts to bleed him once. And this isn't Elden Ring, where enemies build resistances to status effects the more you proc them. It's always 2 casts for a bleed, so the fight is just staying at a distance and casting. But I'm saying this like he isn't an insane enemy that keeps on jumping at me with impossible range. Sometimes he gets stuck focused on just slowly walking towards me, and if it happens I have to match his speed and walk back. The more I can do it, the more free casts I get. Obviously harder to do at this game speed. But that's not the end of it. I think someone above, probably Gwyn, was on my side because 2 insane things happened here. Firstly, I was just dead in this situation. No way to survive. I am stuck in the Ember animation while he's doing a plunging attack. And at least, can we get a VAR replay, please? Yeah, I don't know, but I think that my face explained how I feel pretty well. And then I was sure that Gwyn wanted me to dispatch of his dumb son when this happened. Now just walk towards me and you die. Sorry? How much luck was that? That's insane! How many HP are those? I would argue that it's 9 HP more than I need, but I might risk getting hit by a lightning strike, and after that I only have to take out the Soul of Cinder. So back to the blades, but it was honestly not hard at all to do. The damage is great, I don't get one shot killed easily, the mix-up speed is not too bad, and the video is over. It's speed-based, you gotta be quick to click on the recommendations. Also, the mod was made by Zali the Witch like 6 years ago, it's on Nexus, thanks Zali.